Welcome to Perspectives with Willoughby Eastlake City Schools Superintendent, Dr. Patrick Ward. On this podcast, we sit down for honest conversations about education, where we are, where we're going, and how we support every student's learning journey, as well as the educators leading the way. In this episode, Dr. Ward is joined by Willoughby Middle School Principal, Mr. Jim Greene, and child psychiatrist, Dr. Molly McVoy, for a thoughtful conversation about the middle school years. Together, they discuss adolescent development, the importance of connection, and how the teaming model helps students feel seen, supported, and prepared for success. Thanks for listening. Let's dive in.
Today we are going to wrestle with all things middle school, all things middle level. This is an exciting period of the time during a child's development, and it's also an exciting time academically. And so before we get too far into this conversation today, let's take a step back because we're always interested in kind of unpacking people's origin story. Like, how did you get into the role you're in today, and then why did you choose the particular profession that you're in? And so we'll start, Mr. Greene, with you. Tell us a little bit about how you ended up as the Willoughby Middle School principal.
All right. So, I was reflecting, back on my journey. I've been in education for a little bit over 20 years. I started off as a middle school teacher with math and social studies. And then for the past 12 years, I've been in administration and 2 years at Willoughby Middle School. I would say where it all started was through family. Both my parents were educators. My grandmother was even in education. And so I think it's just, it's a part of who I am. I love serving the community. I love helping others out. So definitely very, very blessed to have the different opportunities that I've had throughout my career. And being in Willoughby Eastlake City Schools has been awesome. Have a lot of gratitude and definitely blessed to be out here.
So I would submit to you it takes a special person to be a middle-level administrator.
Yes.
A lot of patience, a lot of grace, and you probably see some pretty remarkable things on any given day on both extremes, right?
Oh yeah. It's like I think when you look at it each day is different. When you go into approaches, we have our routines and everything, but I think at the same time, the main goal is to make sure that everyone in the school community is supported each and every day. You're faced with different challenges, and especially in those teen years, there's a lot of successes. There's a lot of areas that we focus on. And my main goal personally is attack each day with, the outcome of success, but you can't focus on just that outcome. You got to focus on that journey, what it's going to take to have a successful day. So every day is very, it's very vibrant, lots of activity, lots of learning going on. So I definitely love being in middle school.
Sounds remarkable. Yeah. Now let's pivot over here to another profession that kind of has focused in on this unique period of time in the life of human development.
Yes.
Dr. McVoy, thank you for coming on the podcast today. Tell us, how did you get to a place where the middle level, that particular developmental range, was the sweet spot for you? And can you define it for us? Like, what are the ages we're actually talking about? So we can kind of work from there.
I'm a child psychiatrist, and I came to be a child psychiatrist from a family of science teachers.
All right.
And so I was sort of the next step in people that loved kids and loved science, and I just kept going to school. And there is a need, and that's part of why I'm a child psychiatrist, which means I can prescribe medication, and I can do some of the psychosocial stuff for kids. But there is such a need for people that will connect with early teenagers. And I don't tend to define it in school terms. I'm learning that as I do work with schools, but we think of adolescents starting at 11 or 12. So that tends to be when we think of middle school, and 11 and 12 up to 15 is when I think of sort of that early adolescence.
So I heard a really important word there, connection, because I think if we talk about, what you do, Mr. Greene, as well as what you do, Dr. McVoy, I think the synergy, a good starting place, is the power of connection.
Absolutely.
And we're in an environment now all around us where technology continues to put a wedge between us. And so we heard that in our first podcast as well. When we talked about AI, we talked a lot about the power of human connection and returning to those fundamental human things that make us, more likely to flourish.
Yes.
And so thank you guys both for jumping out there today.
Yes,
Let's just start with, is there a educator in your personal journey at some point that you could right now give a shout out to and say, this individual was a huge impact on my life? Because we also like to hear those testimonies as we were talking about, connection and moving this conversation forward. Let's start this time over here, Dr. McVoy.
I've got two. So I can think of Mr. Sria. He was one of my math teachers in high school. He was just one of those guys that loved the kids and loved math. He's just awesome. And then in college, Nancy Neckfizzle was one of my biology and pre-med. And she was just the same thing. Loved science, but loved the people.
Made that connection.
Yep.
Right? And those things tend to last
Yes.
beyond like the academic content.
Yeah.
It was Miss Fissler for me, 4th grade.
I love it.
Was one of my inspirations, and Miss Perseni. Those two keep talking about.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to reflect back, and I had one teacher in particular back in 9th grade. Her name was Miss Kleps. She was my ELA teacher. She was really, focused on regime structures, making sure that we were the best versions of ourselves. And I think she definitely had a long-lasting impact on me. And I actually ran into her a few years ago, so it was awesome to see her. But she definitely had a lasting lasting impact on my childhood memories in school. And then also, too, Mr. Palo. So Dominic Palo, he was a science teacher at John R. Williams that I had many, many years ago. And, he was a football coach. He always made sure he encouraged us, just to be the best versions of ourselves. So those are two names in particular that kind of...
Well, I can say this for sure. If you're honoring a former educator with the way you lead today, you are a systems guy for sure and a routines guy for sure.
Yeah.
And so if there was an adult in the past that helped you on that journey, I see it every day, and we're grateful that you put those systems in place.
Thanks.
And so let's just take a step back for a minute and talk a little bit about Willoughby Eastlake Schools and the journey we've been on. We used to run a junior high model in the district at all of our middle schools. And we, 2 years ago, shifted from the junior high model to a middle level teaming model.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about what that change looked like between junior high and teaming? And then, in particular, some of the things you've seen as we've started to kind of watch the model evolve.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you look at it in a traditional school setting, when you look into middle school, you have your 45-minute transition rotations for class periods, 4 minutes in between classes. And again, it's very, systematic, okay? Got to go from this class to that class, lots of traveling. And then also, too, I think it's just, I think that traditional model, sometimes kids can just feel like they blend in. They're not sticking out amongst their peers. And so I think that I experienced that as a middle school teacher, so I know exactly what that is like. And then actually having the teaming model, like a true teaming model, which means, having the proper staff in place, having the proper schedules in place, and all the resources. I think truly that you're able to surround the whole child more when it comes to supports. Essentially, like say we're grades 6th, 7th, and 8th, and I'm just going to make up some numbers here. Let's just say you have about 180 students per grade level, and you split up each grade level into 2 teams. Well, I was having a conversation the other day with actually somebody about this, and like when it comes to middle school teaming, you're not siloing kids from each other. Okay, they come in contact whether it's during the hallway transition time, whether it's in some of the classes, because you have some students are in accelerated classes, some take different types of elective courses, some are involved in sports activities, so they're going to have that time to socially interact. However, it's the key component is during your core instructional time, you're able to really, really get strategic when it comes to student support for core subject areas, but then we also have additional flex time where you can actually bring the entire grade level together, whether it's talking about any upcoming events, interventions. However, where I think that middle school teaming really accelerates is student support because it surrounds the entire child. For example, every day middle school teachers, the core teachers, they meet for a professional learning community time, so PLC time, where that allows them to strategize and talk about the individual child, not clusters of children, right? 20, 30, 40 kids at a time. Like they actually can kind of go into the weeds and say, hey, listen, is this child accelerating in this grade level as far as academics? How's the attendance looking? Are they going through any issues? We can bring parents up at that time. We don't have to wait for parent conferences anymore. We don't have to wait days, weeks, months to provide support. We're able to provide support instantaneously. You don't get that without the model of teaming. So I think
when you talk about connection, being seen, feeling supported, not being able to hide, sounds like some important things for this particular age group. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about developmentally how this model that he just described might support the learner's development during those kind of formative years from your perspective.
For sure. I happen to have a 7th grader who's at a school that has teams, and it's incredibly helpful. They're going from being often at elementary school where they tell them what to do, but they also know them like elementary school teachers know their kids because they don't have multiple teachers. They may have 3 or 4 teachers, but they don't have 10. Middle school, they're starting to be independent, but not really. They don't really know. And so having adults that know them well, but also allow them to develop a little bit of independence before they go to high school, which now requires, at least in my experience, incredible independence because it's not the high school of my Gen X self. This is a different landscape. So helping them have a little more independence, but still, the teachers still know them and can support them and understand that, yes, you just turned 14 and you're now almost 6 foot tall, but you still want to go home and sometimes sit on the couch with the dog and your mom because you're stressed out. You know what I mean? So they know that is what this age group is like. They got 1 foot in the door being a grown-up, and they got more feet in the door still being a 5th grader.
So outside of that support, which is important, right, for students to know that there's an adult that's going to champion them and an adult that's going to support them when they have those tough moments, academically, what are some of the advantages you're seeing to the teaming model versus how we used to do it with the junior high kind of period day?
So when you look at a student academic success, there's a lot of factors that go into place. We always, you can refer to state testing. There's benchmark tests, assessments. How are they doing with the grades? And so when you're looking at the academics of an individual child, there's a lot of key data measures. You might hear somebody refer to them as like KPIs, like key performance indicators. So there's a lot of different pieces of data you have to look at, but you got to think about it. There's minimal time to look at that. You have to think about the daily routine of a teacher, and time is of the essence as far as being able to successfully support kids. And so when you embed that time, they're able to kind of say, like when we're looking at academics with an individual child, all of your teachers, like think about this, your ELA, your math, your social studies, intervention specialists, all the different teachers of core subjects are able to meet at one time and say if I'm an ELA teacher and I see a student that is struggling in ELA, I can let all the other teachers know so they're not left in the dark. I think the worst feeling as an educator is lack of communication, and this allows the teachers to talk about supports for the individual child and that quick action that can take place. Also, too, you can work on like flex groups as well. Like you might find commonalities. Like let's talk academics when it comes to specific areas that students might accelerate. You might have a cluster of students that really accelerate in one area, and you have a cluster that really have a commonality of they're struggling in a specific standard. So you're able to look at that information. Without teaming, you're not able to do that, which means, essentially, it means that it's less support for your child in middle school.
So what I think you're saying is that if you're going to be more personalized in education, if you're going to be more student-centered, like you have to put a system in place that at least allows for that to happen, because it's not organically just going to happen, right? So put your parent hat on for a minute and talk from a parent perspective. From what are some of the key benefits that you see?
So it took me a while to learn how it worked.
You're not alone.
Right, but it's going to be repetitive, but they know there is actually this group of 4 teachers, math, science, language arts, and social studies, that all know my son. And he's one of those kids that is really strong in math and not strong in language arts. Well, I also happen to be a communicator, so the teachers would have heard this from me, but I didn't need to be the first one that said it because they talk to each other. So language arts could communicate with math that although he's going to be able to do all these calculations in his head, he's going to have a hard time with the word problems. So as a parent, it is confusing. That is a true statement. But once you learn it, they have the opportunity to really be known by those core teachers. And they still get to see everybody and all the other things with band or, whatever the other stuff is they're doing outside of those core classes.
Yeah, so I think we hit on some pretty big, points here that, we value relationships and connection. And so the more we can make that intentionally for kids that are going to crave that at this particular stage of their life, that's a win. And then academically, being able to advocate for a child, but also not being able to hide, right?
Correct.
Like at some points, like I could, it's the old let's play mom versus dad thing here, where now I've got a team of teachers who are all speaking the same language, right? So it's harder to kind of pull a fast one, which, again, I also have a middle level child, so they're really good at that.
They like to hide.
Like, don't see me, please, right? We're going to transition a little bit now to part of this conversation where, like, I'm going to talk about a particular audience and then some advice you might be able to give them. And let's start with the parent group, right? Like, when you think about parents, from your perspective, like, what advice can you give some of our parents who are negotiating these difficult years, right?
So I'm going to give them the advice that actually I got from one of the middle school counselors, which is they're trying to run away from you at this age, but they need you to hang on tight. And as middle schoolers, they are very good at being unappealing. So, because there's so much happening to them biologically, psychologically, socially, there's so much happening. They are 1 minute one thing, 1 minute the next. And so it can be overwhelming. But we need to hang on. They need us. The more that they act like they don't is the more that we need to hang on tight and to give yourself a break to know it's okay if you're feeling overwhelmed as a parent or if you're not particularly loving the personality of the middle schooler in your house. That's okay. Hang in there. Still be there for them. Still tell them the things that matter to you as a parent, and that tomorrow might be a whole different kid that you have in your house.
This is encouraging.
Yes.
But how beautiful that statement idea of just holding tight,
Hang
right?
on.
Like, what parent doesn't want to just hold their baby longer, right?
Yes.
That's pretty beautiful. So from the principal perspective, if we're in the advice, giving game here, what advice could we give parents about supporting them through this period of time from your perspective?
From my perspective, like I'm really big on transparency. I think that keeping that at the forefront, so no matter what a child is facing, the more we know, the more we're able to support. A lot of parent conversations I have, we always talk about how it takes a village to raise a child, and that consists of multiple school community partners, including, the families, the students, the teachers. And so I think that just in regards to anything that a parent might face, just to let parents know, hey, we're here to help you out. Our goal is to make sure that by the time your child, I would say not even leaving just Willoughby Middle School, but just leaving whatever school they're at in general, is to be successful, no matter what it is that they want to do in life. And so I think just having that open lines of communication, and don't get me wrong, email, I love to email, but there's nothing that beats, I think, that either face-to-face conversation or a conversation on the phone. Then that way we can kind of game plan. Because in partnership with parents, I think as schools, that's how we can best support their child. They're going through a lot of different changes in those years, and especially in middle school. And, I would say just the biggest important message to parents is just let them know that we're here to support. However, each and every day we're here to support.
Boy, I really like these two ideas when they sit next to each other, right? Like hug them and hold them.
Yeah.
Don't let them go. They need you. They may not be showing it, right? But hug them and hold them. And this idea that like we are not like by default like designed to be behind our computers exchanging information that way, right? Like come out and let's talk.
Yes.
Let's have conversations. Let's engage each other authentically, and let's be as open about the fact that we all care and we're all trying to find a solution, right? Like that. That's really encouraging. I think I have my parent hat on right now, and I'm thinking like, okay, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to hug them today.
Yep.
Because you know what? Yesterday, that was not what we were thinking. So I like that. Might be a different kid. This is good, right? So good. Love it. So different group. Let's shift here. Let's talk about educators.
Yeah.
So if you think about our teachers, right, who are also struggling, like our middle school teachers chose to teach this level.
Yes.
And I always said, like, this is a special group,
Yes,
right?
it is.
Like they are a special group. So like what directly could we share, advice could we share with them as we're looking at, again, a world that's changing really fast.
Yep.
The kids have access to different things today. Like, what advice would we give a middle-level educator?
I would say, keep an open mind. I mean, each day, you approach, it's going to be different. There's no 2 days alike. There's no two situations exactly the same. So I think always staying ready, being prepared. We were talking about social media earlier. The days are ever changing. We're never going to be able to keep ahead of everything, especially with the rapid pace that technology works against us at times. But I think all in all, just, feeling confident in the structures and systems that you have in place as an educator. But again, I think just that collaborative mentality going into each day, like we want to see you do well. So whether we're talking educators, teachers, students, families, we want you to be successful. So I think all in all with teachers is like we know that middle school teachers in general, it's a tough field to be in. And again, after those first few years, okay, because I was told they're like, all right, they're like, Jim, you lasted past your first year, your third year, your fifth year.
You're good.
Okay, you're good. So, we go through different stages in our journey of education. And I think somewhere along the lines, like me personally, it evolved into like a passion. And so, yes, granted, the years add up and the experiences add up, but I think to me, it never gets old, and that, that fire is still burning. So I think just my number one advice to teachers is, be your authentic self, bring the best versions of yourself each and every day. And, I went back to transparency with about parents, but the same thing with educators. Keep those lines of communication open. Like I'm big as a principal going around the school, making sure teachers get what they need. But back to PLCs with middle school teaming, I'm able to literally walk into each of their PLCs each day. Hey, is there anything that you need? Oh, have you heard about this? We talk about different strategies. Again, it's just day by day, I think we continue to get better. But again, communication amongst teachers. And here's one thing about the teaching profession that, unless you're in education, sometimes you might not know this. Depending on what grade level you teach, depending on what subject area you teach, you might not always get to see each other. So to keep up to date with what's happening in this rapid pace, school environment, sometimes you can't keep up with that. So I think just that's what teaming allows us to kind of collaborate more as a staff.
So I keep hearing theme here of connection,
Yes,
but I like to
yes.
bring the passion.
Yes.
Like bring the passion
Yeah,
still,
yep.
reset every day. That's pretty powerful because like these kids are counting on the adults, right?
Yep.
From your perspective, what help our educators,
Yes.
right?
So my first is gratitude. I'm not an educator. I spend part of my time as a child psychiatrist working with educators, but gratitude. You guys matter. So as a doctor that takes care of the kids, I always talk to their teachers because the teachers know them. They know them. They're seeing them every day. So as a person that's dealing with the sickest of the sick, I'm grateful for teachers that stick with these kids and can give me information so I know how to take care of them. As a parent, although I, in theory, have an advanced degree in kids, I count on my son's teachers, and I have so much gratitude for the expertise that they bring. I will, as a parent, express, and as a prescriber, as a doctor, that back and forth communication is one of the things I think that's probably the hardest for teachers to do. It is so important and so helpful. And so any opportunity to provide a random positive phone call. Nothing's wrong. Johnny did great today. It is so helpful as a parent to hear that and to know that every time school calls is not that someone's in trouble. Which is easier said than done. But having some sort of system and just so much gratitude. We're kind of all on the front lines together. And similar to what you said, that the mental health profession, we're here to help too. So if there's things we can do to support educators.
So I love that idea that if we approach this conversation through the lens of gratitude, like what a different conversation we'd be having just as a society
100%.
about the future and investing in our kids and the important adults across so many different professions that are advocating and supporting kids, right? And I think we lose sight of that noise if we're just completely online, right?
For sure.
So coming offline, having conversations, getting perspectives, so important if we're going to move, forward here. And so I love the idea of passion every day when you come here. And I also love the idea of, entering into this conversation, being grateful. And that positive note, like imagine how different things could be if we just took one, minute and made that positive phone call. So that when you did make that more difficult one, which is going to come, it makes it go so much smoother. So let's talk about, we're going to go to our last group here. We're going to be as succinct with this one as we can because our students are the reason we have a job, right? It's the reason we show up. It's our future. It's the best investment a society can make is in their children. Yes. I believe that for 25 plus years now. And so if you could talk directly to students during this weird time in their life who are trying to find a way, what would you tell them?
I would tell them they matter. There are kids that know they matter, so they're blessed with a system of family and friends and teachers that they know that. All of them matter, though, even the ones that are faced with things that I just can't imagine coping with as an adult that some of these kids have to cope with. And I think middle school is the time when it's the most confusing if you're okay. High school, they continue to figure out who they are, but are a little more solid in their foundation of, I'm okay. I'm okay as a person. I got it. I'm all right. These are the things I'm good at. You guys matter, and there are adults that will help you when you're not sure about that. So there's going to be days you're not sure, but you matter, and when you're not sure, find an adult, probably not one of your friends, is probably not the best person to reach out to in that minute, but if you're not sure, find someone that you can trust and help get someone to remind you that you matter, because you totally do.
Boy, you can carry that for sure right here today. That's a great, a lot of positive messages I'm taking out of this conversation. I'm going to feel good the rest of today.
Good, I'm
going to walk around and just tell people you matter, all right? And we believe that, and that's really one of the most crucial things. I heard it first from someone who's trained in a profession to deliver this type of advice. So that's outstanding. Very, very great. So let's talk about, from your perspective, right to the students, what would you tell them?
Yeah, well, you know what, to say to all the students, we see you, we hear you, we value what you have to say, what you bring to our school community. So many times I think that working with middle school students, they might feel like their voices aren't heard. So again, just letting them know on a daily basis, we do value what you have to say. We value the different perspectives that you bring to us. And I let them know each and every day. We have, I meet with all the grade levels in the morning, and we just talk about, just encouraging them to be the best version to themselves. And again, don't be afraid to kind of open up and talk about, hey, your successes, talk about if there's any supports that you need. We really do want to see you succeed. So I think just in general, just when it comes down to student agency and letting them know, we're getting them ready to prepare for their high school journey and beyond. Okay, so in order to prepare them for that, definitely there's crucial conversations and that we have, especially during the middle school years, to kind of help. I think promote that positivity, right? I was talking to students earlier today. I said, hey, positivity always wins. Okay, there's nothing negative about being positive. So I think looking...
You try to trick them there with that one. I like that. That's good. You almost had me for a second there. I snapped right back.
Positivity always wins. So when really thinking about that, go in with a positive mindset, understand that not every day is going to be perfect, but understand you're in a school community, you're in a school environment, that you have the amount of supports that can help you succeed. Not only just inside the school, but that's where, outside of the school as well, with parental support. I've been in situations where you don't always have all that support. And, definitely I can affirm that, with, Willoughby, East City Schools, and other districts as well that I've come across, but just we have the right supports in place. And I think it's just a matter of letting the students know that, hey, we are here to help you out in any ways, and your voice is valued.
So, again, it's a theme I keep hearing, just a little space for some grace every once in a while, so we can continue this experiment of just being together in community, because that's ultimately, you see kids grow up and become hopefully the better and best versions of themselves. Yes. And that support that we can offer along the way is we can lead into the idea that you don't have to be perfect, right?
No.
Like none of us are.
Right.
So give you a second to think about this. Like when you think about two challenges that are top of mind right now, when you think about the middle level, adolescence, the time we're in, like what are the two things right now that, as a wise mentor of mine used to say, you always want to look around the corner, right? Just be looking down the road, thinking like what could be coming, so you can be better prepared. Like what advice or insights can you give us as practitioners trying to improve the supports, but also get our best version of our students out the door? What are two things that should be top of mind that we should be thinking about?
Social media.
Okay.
And mental health.
Okay. And so I'm going to give you a chance to elaborate at that in a minute.
I would say social media
Okay.
and mindset transitioning to another level of school, whether it's elementary into middle to high school to post-secondary or
Got it.
college.
All right, so I'm going to let you pick one of those two things to elaborate on here.
Yep.
But I did notice you both chose social media, which is curious, right?
Yes.
And so who'd like to take that one?
You can take it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We, as human beings, are not designed for social media. We are social creatures, but we are one-on-one social creatures. And we are anxious social creatures. So, like, we're anticipating what might go wrong. Super helpful when you were living in a cave with 10 people. The person that was paying attention and able to anticipate what went wrong lived and survived, and their progeny lived on and helped their community. We are not designed to have millions of people be that feedback to those anxious social creatures that we are. That's what social media is. It is this perpetual reinforcement of, this might be it. What's happening next? Oh, you're not there. They're there. Oh, someone liked you. They didn't like you. It reinforces all this nervous social energy, and especially for middle schoolers who don't really understand who they are and are developing their social identity. It's really problematic, and it's really confusing.
But what I think I just heard was there's some biological systems that just haven't caught up. They haven't caught up to the technology.
The technology
and
hijacked them.
And so that's very fascinating. And so then when you take these little kids who are beginning to develop into adults, that sounds like a pretty challenging recipe right there. And so I'm sure Mr. Greene's never dealt with the negative impacts of social media as a principal, right?
I don't even know what
right?
you're talking about.
Okay, good. So perhaps we'll have you back to unpack that a little further because, again, any help we can provide parents in this space, I think, is absolute paramount.
Yes.
Because even living in education and having a teenager, two of them at home, like I know we don't even know, and we're aware of it, right? So that's probably an important conversation we have to continue to have. Mr. Greene, you mentioned these transitions between elementary to middle to high school.
Yeah.
Like, elaborate a little bit on that.
So those are really big times, not only in students' lives, but parents as well and families. And so I think that if you look at your K to 5 years, the makeup of what a school looks like, what the classes look like, minimal movement. And then as fifth grade gets ready to transition into sixth grade, I always call it the 4-minute thing, the 4-minute issue. And what that is when you go from fifth grade into sixth grade, you have to be regimented to transition classes 4 minutes to get to your next class. So which consists of lockers, restroom breaks, seeing some friends and saying hello to them. So that's a huge undertaking for students as they get ready for that. But if you really look at it from afar, there's a bridge from fifth grade into sixth grade. Talking to a lot of parents, there's a lot of nervousness, not only with the students, but the parents as well. So I think just putting their minds at ease, letting them know there's structures and systems in place to support them, that really, I think, helps out a lot. But then let's look at our middle school years, okay? So if you look at middle school years, okay, so let's look at the math. So when you look at grades K to 5, you have 6 different grade levels there. When you look at middle school, you have 3, high school 4. So we literally have those children for the least amount of time, but they're getting ready to embark upon one of the biggest journeys of their career going into high school.
Yeah.
So I think really, so we have it on two ends here, right? So 5th into 6th, but then 8th grade going into 9th. Like, every morning in these past couple of weeks, you can start to see it in the 8th graders' faces, like, hey, are you nervous? No, I got this. And then others are kind of like sitting to the side. So you can tell the anxiety is getting there. Yeah. But I think that when you look at anxiety, right, that means that you're stuck in the future, right? So anxiety, because we're getting built up about something that hasn't happened yet. So I think the biggest thing for me is to pull the kids back in and just say, hey, listen, we're almost to high school, and we're going to make sure that you're prepared by the time you get to high school. Now, here comes high school, and a lot of nervousness because you have a lot of conversations I had last year with 8th grade parents like, I can't believe I got a couple kids in high school now, like where's the time gone? So I think that this goes back to what we talked about earlier in our conversation about, hug your kids, hold on tight, be involved with them. Don't let that time pass because that's one thing we can't get back.
How do we support some of our families with the anxiety that comes with these transitions from your perspective?
Yes. Anxiety is one of those, again, that we inherited from our ancestors. It's great when it's helpful, right? Yeah. You can thank the anxious predecessors. It's super helpful. You don't run across the street without looking. You get your homework done on time. If we didn't have anxiety, we'd all be psychopaths. So it's good. We have a little bit.
Good.
But when you have too much, it gets in the way. So then you get paralyzed. So there are only so many things you can control. Learning to live with the stuff you can't control. Now, mind you, medical students tend to be on the anxious end of the spectrum. So I was a medical student, so, I'm not the most chill human that's ever existed. But learning what are the things I can actually do. So go visit school, practice walking the halls, the things that you can practice and get ahead and know about, and then you got to just kind of sit with all the rest of it.
So I like that idea because I know we do a lot of bringing kids to the building, showing them where their classes are, giving them the pre-exposure. And I also like the idea, then you just got to do it. Yep. Like at some point, you got to take it on, right?
Yep.
So as we think about winding this conversation down, I always like to end on the most hopeful note that we can. And so if you could think of one hopeful thing that you're carrying with you right now that would be good to kind of bring this conversation to a kind of almost some finality.
My hope is that all the students that come through my building are able to come back to me 5 years, 10 years from now and share their successes to me. Nothing beats that. There's nothing that could beat that feeling. So my hope is obviously student success, but I definitely want to see like what they've achieved throughout their lives. And now we already know, being in education, you don't always get to see that, but nothing beats it. And even like sometimes with my father, he was a coach, he was a teacher, and some of his old athletes, my wife was somewhere the other day and there was somebody there that knew my dad that had him as a wrestling coach. And I'm
Fantastic.
like, but shared about the impact that he had on him back, during those high school days. So my hope is that down the road, the students that are coming through the building can come back and have a chance to really reflect on the positive experience that they have.
That's outstanding.
I think similarly, I know the research shows it takes one adult that cares about a kid for them to succeed. And I now get to spend my time with all kinds of adults in all different fields that sincerely care about kids. And so for all those adults that are doing that right now, that have to be that person, know that you could save a kid's life. And that I'm so hopeful that there's so many people, despite the chaos that we're living in, that sincerely want to be that person for our kids, that they're going to be okay.
I'll tell you, this conversation alone has given me hope that we're going to be okay and that the variables that help kids be successful are in place. I found professionally that this is not an exact science. We put people together in a place, and we call it school, right? That grace really is what makes this work, right? And that we give ourselves a little space. So again, just as a quick final parting remark, when you think about adolescence, when you think about the kids, when you think about their development, when you think about school or the support we give them, what's that last sentence or two that you'd like to leave us with today? And we'll start with you, Mr. Greene.
So, I'm like really, I'm really big on quotes, and I always think in order to be successful, you got to put the work in. But I think just in general as a whole, to the parents, school community, I think sometimes in our daily lives we can get overcomplicated. So I think just moving forward throughout your life, just keep things simple. as long as you have the resources in place, we're able to provide the supports that are needed. So just keep things simple. And if you're ever feeling overwhelmed, understand like our doors are always open to talk. But just in general, keep it simple. Hard work leads to success.
You have never been shy to expound upon your stories and successes today. I'm so grateful for you and your time today and your expertise, because what I can sense in this conversation and my interaction with you all the time is you love kids, and you love the work, and you're doing some special things for our students in our community. I'm just grateful for you serving in that role.
I think I want to leave with how amazing that teenagers and middle schoolers are, and how hard. So although I'm a super I'm a Susie Sunshine kind of person, it's legitimately hard to be a middle schooler. It's legitimately hard to get through those ages, and they'll do it. And you can do it, and there's people that are here to listen, and they're so cool when you can get past the bear that they can sometimes be. Middle schoolers are just remarkable and manage to do things that I'm not sure I could do as a 47-year-old. I don't know if I could do some of the stuff they cope with every day, all the time.
So I'm grateful that we had a chance to have this conversation. I'm grateful for your time today, talking about this really important topic. And I'm also hopeful that by gaining a little perspective on the middle-level child and the middle-level experience today, that we can lean into some of those more human principles and again, grow together. I want to take this opportunity to thank our guests for joining us today on this podcast. I also want to thank our listeners for spending some time with us today, unpacking this important topic.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Perspectives. Today's conversation reminds us that the middle school years are both exciting and challenging, and that students thrive when they are surrounded by strong relationships, thoughtful support, and adults who truly see their potential. We appreciate Mr. Jim Greene and Dr. Molly McVoy for sharing their insight and experience, and we thank you for taking the time to listen and reflect with us. Join us next time as we continue exploring new perspectives and working together to support every student's journey.